Welcome back to React Native Radio Podcast. My name is Todd, and I'd like to wish everyone a very happy holiday season. Episode 350, React Native Wrapped 2025.
All right, welcome back, everyone. As you'll be able to notice, the band is back together. Welcome back, Robin and Jamin.
Woo!
Yay, we're back.
Isn't there like a...
We didn't disappear forever. Just for a little bit.
We tried.
You were
We
both
did our
on
best.
sabbatical. I had to pull you back.
Yeah. Thanks for running the, kind of holding down the fort here, Mazen, while we were gone. I've been listening and you're doing a great job.
Thank you. It was lonely, but it was fun.
Oh, now I feel bad.
No, it's all right.
I don't.
Maybe it's my turn for sabbatical. Excuse me.
Jamin's more heartless than me.
No,
It's okay.
no. Justin says no sabbatical for me. All right.
Nope. Shaking his head.
Yeah. Well, we also have a guest host with us today, Josh Yoes. Josh, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mazen.
Welcome.
Great to be on here.
Yeah. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners? I'm sure some of them probably know you from social media and some blog posts, but go ahead and introduce yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my name's Josh Yoes. I'm a staff software engineer here at Infinite Red. I live in Jamin's backyard of Vancouver, Washington, or close to Portland, Oregon. And I've been working here for about 3 years now, something like that.
Yeah, that's
Has
awesome.
it been?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun.
I guess so.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it because we have a big episode lined up for you all, kind of our last one for the year. As always, I'm Mazen, she's Robin, he's Jamin, he's Josh, and we're React Native Radio. Before we get into our topic, let's hear from our wonderful sponsor. Infinite Red is a premier React Native consultancy located fully remote in the US. We're a team of 30 senior plus level React Native developers and support staff and have been doing this for nearly a decade. If you're looking for React Native expertise for your next project, hit us up at infinite.red/radio. Don't forget to mention that you heard about us through the React Native Radio podcast.
Man, they sound awesome.
Yeah, how
We should
come we hire
hire
those
them.
guys?
They're
Yeah.
pretty
should.
cool.
Yeah.
I know a guy that
It's
works
so
there.
nice of them to sponsor every episode of this podcast.
We need to adjust the script, though, because it's now officially over 10 years.
Is it?
Yes.
It's not nearly a decade anymore.
No.
It is over a decade.
Over a decade. Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't know,
30
Infinite
staff.
Red celebrated our 10th birthday in October.
Mm-hmm. And we act like 10-year-olds most of the time.
That is a fact. Yes.
We had a pinata at the birthday party and everything.
A bunch of people cried. Yeah. Got into squabbles.
All right, let's get into our topic for today. Today's topic is our yearly topic, React Native Rewind for 2025. I'll go ahead and kick us off for January. January had a lot of highlights that kind of carried over from, the previous year, but the main two things that were essentially launched in January, one was EAS hosting. This is, Expo's version of a way to deploy a website, and it's pretty easy and pretty quick. You just, you run your ES deploy commands and you have a website up with 2 commands, I believe it was. And I think JP on our team put out a video on his socials of being able to move a website from, I believe, Netlify over to EAS hosting within, less than 5 minutes. So that's awesome that they've come up with that script. Expo continues to do all the good stuff that they do there. And then also within January, React Native version 77 was released. This was the one that I was
Feels
on.
so long ago because we're in the 80s now.
I know.
right? Yeah.
77.
Yeah. And, this was, for anyone that kind of remembers what happened a year ago, I certainly don't. This had new CSS features for better layouts and sizing. This was also Android version 15 support and 16 KB page support. Google set a requirement that everyone needed to be on these new specifications to release to the App Store. And, some CLI templates and updates were done.
I see on our notes that you were on that.
Yes, that
Release
was the
team.
release that I was on. I was on that release crew. Yeah, that was fun. It was fun being on that. And I believe I think so. I'm going to do one also next year. Just waiting on that valid confirmation.
How nervous were you to pressing the deploy button?
Luckily, I did not have to do that. All I had to do was run a couple tests commands, and then obviously help with any fixes that needed to happen, figure out where they were happening, essentially, and then kind of push them upstream. So Nicola Corti and Ricardo Cipoleski on the meta team, they were the ones that hit the deploy button. We basically gave them the green light that, all the tests passed. And then if they didn't,
they don't let people outside meta press that button.
No, because if you've also seen like a pull request, they almost like close every pull request, but then I believe they cherry pick it. Like, so they don't necessarily let anyone outside of meta do like the final touches to React Native. So
yeah,
that's all good. I would
don't
not want to submit
want
it. No,
the keys to that.
no.
To that pipeline.
So Josh, one of the reasons why we had you on the show is we felt like you had, a finger on the pulse for a lot of stuff that had been happening this year, helping with the newsletter content and within all that. What's your read on January?
I think January kind of really kicked off like an exciting sort of time in React Native. Like, I think there was a lot of innovations this year, and especially I always get impressed to see Expo increase their offerings every year and really kind of make them more of a fleshed out product. And I think in particular, like some of their hosting products this year really got really kind of grew to a new level.
When we were prepping this, I was like, hey, where's workflows on this list? And I realized it came out like very, very end of 2024, but it was right around the same time as the hosting. And that was another another thing that was just showing that Expo and EAS are becoming so much more full featured and well-rounded and mature.
Nice. So let's move on to February. February also had another version of React Native released, 78. This was a big one because this included React 19 support. So if you all remember React 19 made the compiler. Compiler was officially enabled in React Native, so you're able to do the React compiler. And one of my other favorite ones, I'm not going to go through it, there's episodes on it. One of my favorite is ref is now a prop, so you don't have to do the whole forward ref and all that kind of stuff to get access to your ref. It's just automatically in the props. That makes life so much easier. Another one was moving towards smaller and faster releases, hence the 2 releases in 2 months, right? This is this example right there.
I remember when the React Native team decided to go the other way. Like, there were a lot of releases coming out and people were like, I can't keep up. It's just constant releases. And so they went to, I don't remember exactly if it was quarterly or they went to a slower release cycle. Yeah. But I think they got to a point where a lot of the things they were adding were fairly small, not breaking things quite as often. Yeah. And so they're like, okay, let's ramp this back up.
77 seemed like a pretty low key release. I think there was at least one release in that like range where there wasn't even an Expo SDK.
That was
go with it because the releases were pretty small.
That was 78 and 79.
Oh, wow. Because I didn't realize that.
Well, 77, 78, and 79, I believe, did not come with an Expo companion because 78 was so big with React 19 support, right? So the Expo team was like, we're just going to give you a patch to Expo 52, I believe, to be able to do that on your own if you wanted to. But, hang tight for 79, which is going to come with 53 sort of thing. So,
spoiler alert for later in the year.
Yeah, sorry. But then another quick thing for 78, there's a lot of other stuff, but opt-in for JavaScript logs in Metro that, cleans up your Metro logs. Before it was just a whole bunch of information there. And another thing I have here for February was the State of React Native Survey 2024 results were announced, and we did an episode on that. RNR 329, I believe that was released in end of April. So we kind of do a quick recap of that there. So yeah, Josh, what are your thoughts on February?
Again, February, I've kind of had my eyes on the React 19 support for a while. I know a few years ago, we did a new architecture workshop at Chain React. And a lot of it was kind of this prep that the React team has been doing to kind of prepare for some of these features. So it's exciting to see a lot of them kind of land with flags off it fully in production. I definitely think some of our clients have already started to see some of kind of the increased, like the schedulers, like some of those changes have definitely seen some improvements. So, and I also was definitely a fan of the props as refs. I think anybody who's worked in a component library really does not like that forward ref.
Oh my God. Yeah.
API, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It made sense at the time, but that's one great thing about the React team is that they're always able to kind of evolve and keep backwards compatibility. So definitely excited to see that.
And then getting the types correct. That was a tough one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Especially with forward ref.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to March. March was a small one. Kind of the one thing to kind of focus on here, and specifically, you will see why as you all know, for the rest of the year. React Native Package Checker was a app that was released. I believe it's here we go. React-native-package-checker.vercel.app. That's a way for you to simplify your new architecture migration with this auditing tool. Again, at this point, it's still the new architecture. It's still new shiny tool that everyone's still adopting. So having a tool like this to help your migration process was pretty cool and pretty big. So that's pretty much all I want to highlight for March. Yeah.
There was also the React Native framework or enterprise framework. Actually, what did it? It changed names.
I think it changed to Rock.
Rock,
Yeah,
that's right.
Rock.
Yeah, by CallStack. So that did come out, and that was kind of a big deal. And then, Josh, I'm going to surprise you with this one. Something really near and dear to your heart came out then.
I should probably
it's
know
your
this.
own library, the MCP server.
That's right. That's right.
That's when you announced it.
That's right. Yes, I'd released my iOS simulator MCP. That's right. That was kind of exciting.
Yeah. Really quick, can you kind of explain to our audience what that was or what that is?
Yes. So one thing agents really popped off this year. I know even before this year, I was very skeptical of sort of tool calling agentic editors, but this year really surprised me with that. And I was looking for something similar to Playwright because on the web, people were doing these really impressive demos of having their editor, look at the screen, take screenshots, look at the logs. And I wanted that. But I looked at all the things and I saw and I was like, they don't have this for iOS yet. Like nobody has done this. So, like most developers, I'm like, well, I want it. I make it, So I put it together. And so I put together an MCP server that can sort of drive the iOS simulator and also take screenshots and look at that. It's sort of evolved a little bit with new features. There's actually been a lot of community contributions.
Yeah, I was noticing you have like 1,300 stars, and there's a bunch of pull requests that have come through, and you have issues that are, well, it looks like most of these issues are you with future plans, but
me pointing out my own issues.
Yeah. But that's really cool. We should really have you on to do just an episode just about that, to kind of talk about that in more detail. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
Awesome. Moving on to April. So for April, we had the release of 79, React Native 79. This had a couple of things. I'm actually going to highlight most of them because it was a pretty big update to React Native. One was new Metro features. So, faster startup and package export support. That was big. Something big that we wanted in Metro that kind of came. JSC was moved into a community package. So again, something else that Meta was handing off to the community. So Swift compatible native modules registration. We had that. Faster Android startup. That was actually a pretty cool one where we covered that in the 79 episode that we did. And then removal of remote JS debugging within Metro. So that was pretty cool to kind of see that within there. And then another package to kind of highlight here was the release of React Native Brownfield 1.0. This was when it was officially announced. Think of it as just a way to have React Native in your native app, but then also be able to have a better and cleaner API and access to it. This was, put out there from the team at CallStack during that month.
It's been around for a while. Was this like just the first stable release?
Yes. This was when 1.0 officially was released. So first version.
Yeah, I know CallStack has done a lot with Brownfield work, and so the library's been around for a while, but I think the stable release of React Native Brownfield, I think also coincided a little bit with React Native Enterprise Framework, which was actually open sourced in May, the month after. And they kind of like talk about those two things together a lot. Because I think, well, I might as well move to May, but talking about React Native Enterprise Framework, which was open sourced at the end of May, it's just a bunch of tools that they really target towards enterprise companies who are doing lots of like complex CI/CD pipelines and mono repos and brownfield. If they're like in the process of converting either all or parts of their app to React Native, a lot of times they're doing brownfield work, stuff like that. And I think it's actually called Rock now. Yeah, we just said that it was originally React Native Enterprise Framework, but React Native doesn't like things using the React
paid
Native.
Products. Yeah, like you can do an
like,
open source product,
right? But when it's like a monetized
source
product, it's called Rock now. But yeah, that came out in May. Another cool thing that happened in May this is more in like the broader iOS world, but Apple was forced to stop taking like a 27% cut of external like off-platform paywall. So if your app takes a user outside of the app to like a website to sign up for something or pay for something or buy something, Apple used to take like 27% or something.
So ridiculous.
That
was
nuts.
crazy.
Yeah.
And they got served like an injunction as part of a court case in May of this year saying, no, you can't do that. I think they're appealing, but I think it was a pretty big win for a lot of iOS developers and React Native developers who are shipping on iOS, which most of us are, I think. So that was big news. And then May also brought Expo XDK 53, which was in line with React Native 79. This is the one that kind of skipped a version. So 52 was 77 and 78, and then 53 was 79. Lots of features in this one that were kind of a big deal. This was their first new architecture by default SDK.
We saw that with a lot of different libraries starting to go new architecture
This is
by
like
default, or as we call it, the architecture.
Yeah, this was the beginning of this year was really a lot of teams and libraries were focused on finally finishing the conversion to the new architecture. We saw a lot of activity in like the React Native directory, like keeping track of like, okay, which libraries have finished compatibility. Like I remember waiting for a handful of them that were like really high profile ones that weren't done yet. And we were celebrating when they finally did it. And it was all kind of building up to the middle of the year, starting around this time where React Native and Expo all said, okay, new architecture is on by default. Now it is the architecture and the legacy architecture. So that started with this one. I think Expo 53 also brought edge-to-edge support for Android, which had been coming for a while, and then some new APIs for background task work that were more modern. But the big thing was React Native 79 and the new architecture by default. So yeah, that was May. And then in June, they made it even more official with the freezing of the legacy architecture. And by that, they meant no more bug fixes in the legacy architecture, no more testing of it. Every time they do new releases now, they're not even testing whether things are broken in the old architecture. It's completely frozen. You're on your own, basically. So I think this is the year where we'll really be able to say it's really and truly done. Like, we don't even need to we're hopefully not going to talk about it too much anymore. It's just like, yeah, React Native uses like JSI, and that's it. It's not a new thing anymore.
We're going to get clients coming to us saying, we didn't upgrade and now we have no idea how, and they were so far behind.
Okay, so maybe we will still be talking about it. Hopefully, I don't think
now it's our problem.
The main React Native team will be talking about it quite so much. Right. So legacy architecture is frozen in React Native 80, which came out in June. React Native 80 was also a big deal because it introduced pre-builds on iOS. And what that meant, because pre-build, I usually think of Expo pre-build, but in this case, it means when they ship React Native, a bunch of the core dependencies are pre-built, meaning you don't have to compile them when you run React Native run iOS. And so your builds will take a lot less time, which is a big deal. And a lot of people were really, really happy about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know I just upgraded my MacBook to get those build times down, so I'm very excited about that feature this year as well.
Yes, the year of developer experience in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And then June was also when we released Ignite 11, aka Ignite Bison, which was a big deal for Infinite Red in particular because it was sort of an evolution of our stack. We finally got rid of Mavic Stay Tree from our Ignite stack, which was a bittersweet thing that we did, but it sort of represented an evolution in how we build apps.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was June. And then July had quite a bit of stuff in the third-party library world. Unistyles 3.0 came out with a new style sheet compatible API, so it's easier to adopt Unistyles because it just works. It has the same API as style sheet. So that was a big thing. Reanimated V4 came out, and it supported CSS animations and transitions, which was a big deal. And then Flashless V2, which removed the need to do estimations. Like Flashless V1 was very much based on like you have to kind of tell it what you think the size of your list items are going to be. And it was a lot more work on the developer, and V2 removed that. And then finally in July, we had the release of Rosenite, which, so in 2024, at the very end of 2024, it was announced the React Native DevTools debugger as the new like official React Native debugger. And Rosenite came from CallStack, and it is a plugin system for React Native DevTools. So it has plugins for things like TanStack Query, MMKV, Expo Atlas, networking, performance, all sort of like built into the tab structure of React Native DevTools. Really cool tool. I think pretty important for the debugging world in React Native. And that was the highlights from July. We're kind of halfway through the year now. Jamin, you want to talk about August?
Well, real quick, do we have any general thoughts about kind of those 4 months that Robin went through?
I actually want to backtrack us a little bit. We missed something big for March, and that's my bad because that was my month.
Wow.
React Native turned 10.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
that's
How can
right.
we forget that? That was like the
that's a
big
big
thing.
deal.
Big deal for the year, right?
Yeah.
March, React Native turned 10. That was great. And yeah, that's
I think
something that we
the
celebrated.
announcement was something like January or February, right? And I think we did a blog post about that. But
we
then
did
it
a React
actually
Native
open
Mornings episode
sourced.
Too.
too.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
And that,
Yeah.
as part of it, we did a React Native Mornings episode, kind of like saying happy birthday to
Yeah.
React Native. Robin,
That's right.
Robin refused to sing happy birthday with me, but that's fine.
React Native Mornings was also launched this year, right?
Correct. Yeah. March. That was our first episode wishing React Native a happy birthday. So
That's on YouTube, folks.
yes. So yeah, quick thoughts on those last 3 months. From my perspective, Expo continues to kind of push things forward, kind of keep giving us that great developer experience, while also packages are continuing to evolve, stay new architecture or the architecture relevant and pushing the needle that way. And, we're starting to see new features that are applying to that we had in React coming over to React Native, and something that hasn't really landed just yet, like CSS grids, is something that we're also trying to bring over to React Native. So all that stuff continuing to stay relevant within the React Native world.
Mm-hmm.
I know too, I was personally excited that a lot of the community libraries were really starting to take advantage of the new or the architecture. Particularly, I know that part of Flash Lists, the new rewrite, wouldn't have been possible without some of the sort of layout changes that they had made. I believe some of the other ones, like Reanimated, was kind of taking advantage of the JSI part to rewrite parts of their core in C++. So I think it's kind of cool to see a lot of the community stuff sort of catch up, I guess, to the internals of what's sort of now newly possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good summer for
sure.
for React Native, definitely.
That's awesome.
We'll go for August, September, October, and November. We didn't really, we're recording this early December, so there's not a lot going on yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't have a crystal ball.
So in August, React Native 81 was released, 0.81. Do you all do that too, where you just say 81? You don't say 0?
Yeah, no. With the 0,
Yeah.
the 0 point is always implied forever.
Right.
Because they won't go to 1.0.
Yeah, we'll see. And it's worth reading the blog post about it, but this one actually just felt like more of an evolution as well. It was more kind of Android 16 API level 36 and stability.
It was like a chore. It was a
improvements.
chore release. Really.
It was, yeah. And then faster iOS builds using pre-compilation, as you mentioned before. And then Maestro 2.0 was released, and that came with Maestro Studio Desktop and some other upgrades to dependencies. Of course, Maestro is now something we rely on quite a bit, and so that was cool. Bit of a quieter month. And then September, there was an RFC for removing the legacy architecture entirely. So before that, it was frozen. They weren't going to, test it and everything. But now it's getting serious. It's like, no, it's going to be gone. Like, you will not be able to run it. And of course, there's like compatibility mode and whatnot, but the legacy architecture itself would be gone. So 0.82 would then go on to remove it. And then I want to note really quickly that Mark Rasavi from Margello was extremely busy this whole year. And he released all kinds of stuff.
There's just Nitro in front of everything now.
Nitro in front of everything. React Native Nitro Fetch, React Native Nitro Text,
Image.
Nitro Image. There's all kinds of stuff. So definitely go follow him on Twitter or GitHub or wherever you get your news. Actually, the React Native newsletter is a good place to do that. ReactNativeNewsletter.com.
I also want to point out Mark Rasavi will be on the podcast.
Nice.
And React Native Mornings to do Nitro-specific conversations. So
yeah, that's awesome. There's so much to go over there. Yeah. In early October, then Gant here at, my business partner here at Infinite Red, and I went to ReactConf, and the React Foundation was announced. And so the governance now moves from the community, or to the community, for both React and React Native, which is very big news. This is great for the community, I think, long term. It's in good hands. React 19.2 and React Native 0.82 were released, removing the legacy architecture entirely. This is moving quickly.
Means basically locks people to 81.
81 unless
you
they're
cannot upgrade
making some
anymore
changes.
until
Yeah.
you are on the new architecture.
And you can
Also-
no longer do like new architecture enabled false or
Right.
RCT new arc enabled 0, I believe it was. You can no longer run those commands. You can do them. It just won't do anything.
It's not going to do anything. Yeah. Hermes V1, confusingly named V1, version 1, was released, and that is static Hermes now being the real Hermes. Like
How
the,
is
the standard
Hermes on a stable version, but React Native is not?
I mean, we can
That's a
say
good question.
it's on a stable version, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much
In our hearts, it's in a stable version.
right.
It's stable. It's just not Zember.
In November, some fun news. I've been working in Godot lately, and a Godot integration for React Native came out, React Native Godot. And that's a pretty cool library, so go
Do
check
people
that
know
out.
that Jamin's been making a game?
I don't know. Have I talked about it?
Got stealth mode.
Right.
That's what he's been doing with his sabbatical.
By the way, I've noticed that my wish lists are up to 435 last I checked.
Wow.
So
Nice.
it's steadily going up. It's called Into the Dawn. Go check it out on
link
Steam.
to your Steam page in the show notes.
It's not going to be ready for a long time, but you can go wish list it. Anyway,
Right. Just it'll make Jamin happy.
this episode brought to you by Jam and Games. All right.
LLC.
Uniwind 1.0 came out. It's Tailwind bindings for React Native, but incredibly fast. And we are planning to have Jacek on to talk about it. So check that one out. And Fernando Rojo, who went to work for Vercel, finally revealed what he's been working on. Well, actually, he had revealed that prior, but he wrote an article, how we built the V0 iOS app. And this is honestly required reading. If you're a React Native developer, if you're an Expo developer, you need to go read this article, how we built the V0 iOS app. Josh mentioned in our prep. Josh, you want to talk about what you said?
Yes, definitely. It's sort of been on my radar for a little while. I've definitely follow Fernando for a lot of stuff. He definitely is very generous with all of his knowledge. He's done a lot of things between Next.js and Expo and pretty much everything. But particularly this article has a lot of sort of the nitty gritty stuff that I'm often looking for. A lot of tutorials sort of have the, basic stuff, which is always important, but sometimes it can be kind of hard to find the more advanced UX experiences. So I think this article is really kind of a good study guide for interactions that really make consumers happy. So
yeah, it is long, and it has copious code examples and little embedded videos showing how things work. And honestly, like, I expect nothing else from Fernando. He's amazing. He's an incredible developer, but we can all learn from it. There's a lot of things that he just would not accept until they were, in his opinion, good enough. And he has a very high bar. So definitely go check it out. I am really impressed with what they did there at Vercel.
I will say for myself personally, I haven't actually used V0 much, but I did download it the weekend that it came out, and I had a lot of fun playing with it. I know a lot of people, but there's a lot of vibe coding apps, but the experience on it was genuinely, I had a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun to kind of just have an idea and bring it up like in no time. And then for December, it hasn't happened yet, but 0.83 is planned to be released, and maybe by the time this comes out. And the official React Native Twitter said you'll be able to profile and understand your map. From the official React Native Twitter, you'll be able to profile and understand your app more intuitively with native support for the performance panel and network panel in React Native Dev Tools. So just like, this is one thing I forgot to mention about React Conf, there were so many performance talks. Like, it was actually really interesting how many of the talks were about making React and React Native more performant and how to measure that. And so those are very linked topics. And it was, I think, a big deal this whole year. But that wraps up the year as far as the big stuff. There's way more stuff. We had probably, 80 different things that we had written out, and we might work on a blog post to go with this or something. And if we do, we'll try to link to that in the show notes. I'm trying to rope Josh into writing that because he has his finger on the pulse of the community.
Also, if we missed anything, feel free to tweet at us.
Yes, please. Absolutely.
Awesome recap. I think to kind of close it all off, I kind of want to go through some general thoughts about the year and what we feel like the focus was this year. I know, Jamin, you mentioned performance. We'll just kind of piggyback off of that for a little bit, with the emergence of Nitro and all the different packages, Nitro Fetch, Nitro Text, Nitro Image, and Nitro, Star. The possibilities are endless. We have some crazy performant packages that are starting to come out and some that are easy to build. The ongoing I am the fastest list library out there battle continues between Legend List, Flash List, Flat List for all we know, and then also Discord coming to the table with their fast list. There's another one out there, so everyone.
I'm surprised there's not a Nitro list.
You know what? You may have just created something.
It does seem like a good fit.
I would love to be using fastest list. It's a mouthful to say.
Fastest
list. That could be one built in Nitro. Yeah.
I feel like Mark actually tweeted about a list. Yeah, there's one called React Native Wish List. So he does have one. He just hasn't updated in 2 years.
Okay. But we may stay tuned. React Native Rewind 2026. We might be talking about Nitro list.
Right. The funny thing is that he calls it the fastest list component for React Native. And this was 2 years ago. So he beat us to the punch. That's hilarious.
There you
go. Of course he did.
DevTools performance tooling. That's now an option for us. So we're able to test the performance of our apps. Unistyles and Uniwind, we mentioned them earlier. They're high performance styling tools out there. Open source packages by Jacek. Great tools. I use Unistyles all the time on my client project, and it's absolutely a great one. So performance is a general theme of 2025.
So I had asked on Twitter, and I'm just going to read some of the responses so that we don't miss any of these. We don't have time to go into them in any depth, but I'd asked what are kind of the biggest news that you thought happened in 2025. And Adnan, who is a great follow on Twitter, he tweets a lot of React Native stuff, says Uniwind, WebGPU, Godot, Expo launch, which we forgot to mention, I think. Nitro modules, of course, that was late 2024. The V0 app release, Expo awards, that was another big one. and many other things I probably missed. Yeah, we missed stuff too. Jamie Birch, who's been doing a ton of cool stuff with React Native, especially on the desktop side, says React Native fiddle. But good luck finding it. You're going to have to dig through his tweets because it didn't even come up on Google. He says it's a conspiracy. And then Evan Bacon chimes in and says liquid glass in Expo Router.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That was a big one. And then secure environment variables with API routes and EAS hosting. And then NPX test flight, and of course launch.expo.dev. And then Chris Gaba says, I would say Reanimated 4, Expo 54, React compiler, and forced new architecture all happened basically simultaneously. And it was a lot.
Forced new architecture? We've known about it for a long time.
Only like 6 years.
Right?
That's funny.
All about forced.
I still remember telling a client back in like 2022, like, oh, this will be better when the new architecture lands pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, Jamin, while you're continuing through that list, what are some of your general thoughts that you saw from 2025?
I'm actually done with the list. So yeah, general thoughts is similar. Performance was a huge deal. And tool like dev tools, for sure. A lot of stuff like that. Expo continuing to become more and more just what everybody uses, new architecture. All of this, it just feels like all of these things that we've like over the years knew were coming or, like wished were coming within the React Native community are actually becoming real. And it just feels like the community is responding to that. I mean, honestly, Flutter is sputtering. Robin wants me to say Flutter
I wanted to say Flutter
floundering.
is floundering, but it's really, do you go rhyme or do you go alliteration? It's really up to you.
Flutter is having some issues. Maybe some Flutter devs would disagree, but I've seen plenty of Flutter devs complaining about what's happening over there. Won't go into it too much. Some other alternatives have also come out like Lynx and Baldy, but they're just well behind in community support and adoption. And so I think React Native and Expo are just dominating right now, even over native itself. Like I saw someone tweet the other day that there's far more jobs in React Native than there are in the other ones. I don't know if that's true, but that's what they claimed. So yeah, you're in the right place if you're listening to this podcast and if you're working in React Native.
Yeah, I believe that was from Adnan. He created a community called Native Weekly where he has a community for React Native devs to kind of get together and ask questions, ask help within that. And then I believe every now and then he posts on his Twitter, jobs that are out there, and he'll sometimes compare it to Flutter jobs that are out there. And he's always like, let's just say for conversation, 5 React Native jobs, no Flutter jobs out this month, sort of thing. So he seems to be highlighting that a lot. So that's for sure. Robin, what about you? What were some of your general thoughts for 2025?
Everything I'm seeing, talking about this focus on now performance and seeing a lot of focus on developer experience and like dev tooling and debugging and profiling. It's all indicators to me that React Native has kind of made it. Like it's in its polish era for the Swifties out there. It's less about like what features does React Native still need, like, and more about like, okay, now that we're good, we're stable, our architecture is the best it can be, let's focus on all the other stuff, the polish, the like making everything like fast and delightful, as like I think Ruby devs always use that word, I think, about the experience of developing with React Native. And I love to see it. I really love to see it. I hope React Native is around for many years to come and is as stable and has as much longevity as, Java or whatever. But yeah, I'm really happy to see it sort of enter this era.
React Native version 0.1000 was just released.
Oh, we're probably going to do like a live stream or something. If they ever decide to release 1.0, like that's our Super Bowl. It's our breaking news.
We got to get fireworks or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Josh, what about you? What were some of your general thoughts for 2025?
Yeah, I think a really interesting synergy happened in the React Native ecosystem this year where, a lot of stability, a lot of the performance came, but kind of with a lot of the sort of agentic like AI coding coming, React Native is really kind of, it keeps the highlighting its value of kind of that. It's 80% React. If you already know a little bit of React, you can write React Native. And a lot of the community libraries still getting even more mature. I really saw a lot of sort of vibe coding platforms use React Native as its preferred target. And, in some ways it's cool to see new products, and I think a lot of people, have maybe used an app that was having some troubles, it's a good prototype. But I think in general, when you see kind of a bigger swell of people coming into the programming community, that's always a boon. So I think that was kind of really interesting to see, where I know a lot of people also saw that, kind of more closed things. I know JP did a lot of sort of vibe coding with Apple products, and he found it a little bit harder because there's not as much code on the internet, simply put, that's public. So I think that was kind of something that I saw a lot, a lot of new products, a lot of new kind of innovation. So that was exciting for me to see.
Awesome. Thank you for that all. And that's it for our episode. I think to kind of wrap up the year, Robin, do you have a mom joke to wrap up 2025?
I do. And apologies, since this will come out a little bit later in December, but we just got through Thanksgiving as we're recording this, and so I couldn't help myself. This is a Thanksgiving themed joke. This is from Darren Wilson in our jokes channel. What do you call the ghost of Thanksgiving turkey? A poultrygeist.
Oh no.
And that's 2025, folks.
Oh man. Yeah, and thanks to everybody for coming along with us in this journey and hanging out with us here on our podcast. We really appreciate it. We don't always hear from people, obviously. The podcast is kind of a one-way medium, but when you folks do come up to us at conferences or send us a tweet or whatever, it makes us feel great. It's really nice to hear from people who do choose to spend some time with us every episode. And thanks. We really appreciate it.
Including Josh. Thank you for coming on the show. It was nice to have,
it was so nice.
you on.
So fun
cool.
to have you on.
Yeah, this is great.
Great job.
Well, with that, React Native Radio fans, 2025 is over. Have a good new year, and we'll see you next year.
Bye.
As always, thanks to our editor, Todd Worth, our assistant editor, Jed Bartosky, our marketing and episode release coordinator, Justin Husky, and our guest coordinator, Mazen Chami. Our producers and hosts are Jamin Holmgren, Robin Hines, and Mazen Chami. Thanks to our sponsor, Infinite Red. Check us out at infinite.red/radio. A special thanks to all of you listening today. Make sure to subscribe to React Native Radio on all the major podcasting platforms.